Hey YouTube, Thrash Bandicoot 01 here, and welcome to the first ever episode of Thrash Interviews. Today, on this first episode of Thrash Interviews, we will be having Ryan Manson and Jonas Wald of the band Virtue joining us today. Yeah. So could you tell me a bit about how Virtue came about, and how long you guys have been collaborating on music?
Okay. So Virtue began probably about 3 years ago, give or take, more or less just as my band. Because I just wanted to, do music, make music, do that whole shebang. I was at one of my school's talent shows, I saw Jonas play, and I was like, damn, that guy's cool. I want to do stuff with him. So I talked to him, and he mentioned how he can, record his own stuff. He had a whole little setup at his house that he could, bring to my place. So I was like, dude, let's fucking cut some demos and just start doing some junk. The original plan was more or less that I was gonna do everything, sing, do the whole shebang. But as time went on and Jonas, did scratch vocals on some demos, I was like, wow, this guy is the guy that I need to sing in my band. That's really about it.
So have you two been a part of any other bands, current or former?
You want to go first, Jonas?
Sure. We're both in our own separate bands. Virtue's the only band that we've really collaborated on together. I've been in a few musical projects and only one other band that sort of plays. I could list them off. My own solo thing, which is Killium, a rock band that's called the Bluegrass Group, and an alt grunge punk band called Entropy.
So you're in quite a few projects then.
Yes.
The only other project I'm involved in is a band called Overcoast. I joined last January, and since then it's been pretty much an uphill battle at this point. It's been a lot of fun. They're definitely much more alt-rocky, more like a Foo Fighters, Cheap Trick, Joyce Manor, Pup kind of band than Virtue, which is definitely Raven, Thin Lizzy, Black Sabbath. So it's kind of fun for me to be able to go into these projects with this whole different mindset of, okay, now I'm not coming in playing bass thinking of Roger Glover from Deep Purple. I'm not thinking of the guy from Pup or the guy from Joyce Manor, and how do they play?
Yeah, because I do remember seeing Deep Purple on the Bandcamp page as one of the influences.
Yeah, Deep Purple, Thin Lizzy, UFO, Raven, Sax, and a lot of those 70s, 80s British bands, but especially the new wave of British heavy metal itself. Really big influence to me in my whole musical everything. Hell, one of the first concerts I went to that wasn't Weird Al Yankovic was Sax and UFO at this venue called the Star Plaza Theater, about 30 minutes away from me. And that was one of those shows where I saw that, and I saw Saxon play and saw UFO play, and I thought, that is what I want to do.
Yeah, I mean, the new wave of British heavy metal was such an important movement that kind of gets overlooked at times, but the influence is still felt.
Well, God, even today, all the bands that come out that have that sound still. There's this whole new wave of these bands, Stryker, Enforcer, all these bands that come out where it's they sound kind of modern, but you can definitely say yeah, they could go on a tour with Venom or Raven. You could see them fitting in perfectly.
So, what is some of the gear that you guys use during recording and performances, such as the guitars, the basses, the mics, stuff like that?
Okay, well, I'll do my rig first because Jones is the whole technical side of junk. I use a Marshall DSL-40 that goes into a very basic pedal, a wah pedal. I used to have a delay, but it broke, and an Boss DS1 distortion for extra gain, so I don't need that. I'm using a 2015 Mexican Fender Stratocaster I've had. My first guitar mainly has been that. And then recently, I think 2 songs on the record feature a 2019 Gibson Flying V that I got. Bass-wise, I've been using mainly an Ibanez. Was an Ibanez 5-string bass. I couldn't tell you all the specifics. And just like the Gibson, I recently got a Epiphone White Thunderbird, so I'm using that in a couple of songs. But it's mainly done with my Fender Stratocaster and the Ibanez bass through a Marshall. Can't get more classic than that.
You can't.
Exactly. And then Jonas, please explain your whole recording junk, because that just flies over my head.
Yeah, it's so I'm not one to really obsess over what I work with. I just have what I have. So my interface, I use a Euphoria UMC 404. And it's just a 4-track interface to record 4 things, but we usually only ever use one at a time since Ryan does everything music wise. And just an XLR cable and just a spare mic that my dad had lying around, which is it's a pretty good mic. It's a Shure SM57, and that's what I use for the guitar recordings and my vocal recordings.
Sounds like you got quite the setup there.
It's all right. It's very minimal, not nothing too fancy.
I mean, you could argue that, with a lot of these, I'm trying to find the right word here, with a lot of the way recording technology has evolved, that maybe you don't probably need a whole lot like you would have, say, 20 years ago.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, I when I started trying to record my own stuff, and when I started trying to record Ryan, actually, I sort of been using Ryan as a way to experiment with how to record and stuff, because I never really had an excuse to produce a band before, so I'm not the best producer, but I'm getting my bearings with it, and I'm finding that you don't need a lot to record stuff, because I used to dread recording drums because I'd figured, I only have 4 tracks, I can't do much with that, but it's really not that much of a problem. So yeah, less really isn't a huge problem like I thought it would be.
Now, is Virtue strictly a studio-only project, or are there plans to gather additional musicians for live shows?
As of right now, the plan is like this. I'm really enjoying my position in Overcoast, playing bass and having a lot of fun, but Virtue is, of course, like near and dear to my heart, so my plan is to definitely get a band figured out. Right now, the tentative idea is me on guitars and like backing vocals, Jonas taking over bass and lead vocals, and then the guy doing the drums on the full record, not to spoil it, we're doing a full record coming out sometime, hopefully soonish. His name is Kyle, he'll be doing drums. But I don't think there's any plans, at least in my head, I don't see Virtue doing any big, grand scale tours for a long while, because I still want to be able to find like that perfect lineup. Like make sure that we have everything that we need, so when we go on the road, it's not, and this guy's like awful actually and can't tour and do all that stuff. So definitely it's kind of a work in progress for getting a whole like touring band figured out.
Yeah, I understand completely. It seems that you do that. Bleh, can't speak. Yeah, I do kind of get that. You do want to make sure you have the right people involved.
Yeah, because there's just a lot of, these people, you know how they're going to act when it's 3 weeks into a tour, you have $20, you can afford some ramen and some gas, and they're freaking out because there's something just broke and they can't afford to replace it. Like, that's where I want to make sure the people that I'm going to be with can handle, like, the stress of the van tour, because if not, it's not going to work out.
So the last so this is just sort of a question I like to ask all the bands I interview. What advice do you have to anyone out there who wants to start a band?
I feel the best thing, if you want to start a band, and Jonas, you can, if you have anything to add on, is please. The best thing to do is make sure you surround yourself with people that want to do this as much as you. Because I know I had a friend, I'm not going to say his name because I don't think he wants me to say his name. And when I released my little The Rock Never Die EP, he got super shitty with me because he wanted to play drums on it. May I mind you, though, I text him almost every single week, hey, let's jam, let's work on songs, just make sure like these drum parts are figured out. And he'd be like, no, I'm playing Xbox, or like just always have some dumb excuse not to do it. So you want to make sure if you're going to do a band, make sure like you're surrounded by people that want to do it as much as you. Because the second someone's not as passionate as you, that's the second they stop caring as much as you. The second stop trying as much as you. And you want to make sure everybody is willing to put 100% in. That's probably the biggest thing.
Yeah, and I absolutely agree with Ryan that you want to make sure you have the right people, but don't let that discourage you from starting to make music or recording or doing anything, because I wanted to start a band a long time ago, and I was about 14 or 15, and I had a couple of friends that I wanted to make a band with, but just over the years I'd waited and waited for them to, like, we'd get together every now and then, but it wouldn't quite work out, and I got tired of waiting, and I just started writing and recording on my own. So just, if you want to start a band, just do it. You don't need a solid, concrete, steady lineup at the very beginning. Nothing's going to be perfect from the start. If it's just you, that's great. I'm a huge advocate of the punk mindset, and that just do it yourself. If you're all you got, that's awesome. Just get a microphone, record what you need to record, and get it out there.
Exactly.
Yeah. Sorry about the pause there. Somebody tried to walk in on us. It's like, no. I'm in the middle of recording. But back to your point, yeah, I'm trying to word this in a way that doesn't sound cliche, but definitely I think that the whole punk movement with the whole do-it-yourself thing really did change the face of music, because it showed you can start your own labels, you can put out your own records, you can promote your own shows. It definitely just changed everything. And I think that was a really good point that you brought up there, Jonas.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, punk is honestly, I feel sometimes that punk is like the purest form of music, because it really hits you in the soul and it really comes directly from the artist to you. It's great. I love it, in my opinion.
So other than the bands that are listed on the Virtue Bandcamp as influences, what other bands would you say have influenced you musically?
So I say the best way to do this is go kind of each song and talk about influence, because every song was kind of written at a different point in time. So every song definitely you can kind of hear it's one band and this one band with this one. You have to like pull up give me 1 second. Let's go kind of track by track, if you don't mind.
All right, let's do it.
So Rock Will Never Die, that was me ripping off the band Grim Reaper. Do you know that band, by the way?
See You in Hell?
Yes, those guys.
Yep.
And I was really digging their third album. It's kind of a funny story, actually. Nick Bocott lives in Fort Wayne, Indiana, and works at Sweetwater. So fucking one day at a show at Sweetwater, I'm like, yo, is Nick Bocott working today? They said, dude, fuck yeah. And I got to meet him. He signed some stuff. Really nice guy. But their third album, Rock You to Hell, that one really influenced what Rock Will Never Die kind of became. Like the main riff even, like it just sounds like Grim Reaper, like the whole, like 9 yards with it. And then We Belong to the Night, that was me trying to rip off pretty much Nickelback and Guns N' Roses with that intro riff. Without like, being, oh my god, like on the money. I was like, damn, that riff, because Animals and, God, what's the song? Because one of Chinese Democracy both have the exact same, like, intro riff. So I was like, well, if they can do it, I can do it, too. I think the song is Chinese Democracy, honestly. But, yeah, that was just my attempt pretty much at saying, okay, I like both these bands, I like both these songs. Let's now take the stuff that I like, cut out the fat that I don't like, and make it my own. And that's really what influenced that song. Witchy Babe, that's just my kind of... I was big into Zeppelin at that time. Zeppelin's a band that I'm always very, like, one day I love them, one day I hate them. So it's kind of always a crapshoot how I feel about them. That was just a couple of weeks where I was like, oh my god, like Zeppelin, that whole 70s blues rock stuff, BTO, like, that's awesome, it's perfect, let's do a song kind of like that. And that's kind of what Witchy Babe became. They're just a kind of fun 70s rock song with that kind of Thin Lizzy, Zeppelin, BTO kind of feel. And then What You Looking For is, I feel, the only song that I cannot pinpoint a single band. Because that was one that was more or less just written from the heart, just fuck it, I just want to save this idea. Let's just go for it. It wasn't me thinking, listen to a lot of Deep Purple and ripping off them or something. It was a lot of kind of, how do I feel about, like, what do I feel and what do I want to play? I guess you could maybe say Diamond Head, that main riff is kind of like Heat of the Night. But even then, I've taken a whole new direction than what they did.
Well, that was about all I had to ask you guys tonight. Thank you for your time.
Hey, no problem. Thanks for having us on.
Hey, thanks for having us.